I woke up and I had double vision going, and then I had also this other weird symptom where if I look up, my eyes would just roll down. And then that's when they told me that I had a rare condition, neuromyelitis optica. The first question I asked the doctor was, am I going to be able to live a normal life? And he said, I don't know. And I do believe in God, and I was just questioning, why me?
Like a lot of people say, learn from your losses.
Yep.
But what did you learn from your winnings?
I think like self-talk is so integral, and self-talk has been probably one of the most pivotal things that have gotten me through all of my adversities and my health challenges.
Because I think too many people get lost that they think it's childish to be childlike.
Yep.
And I feel like we still got to keep like our inner child in us to have fun and express ourselves and enjoy life.
I think through the health challenges I had in the last 2.5 years, one thing that I really stayed consistent was meditation. So maybe I was probably going through the physical battles, but also the mental health battles at the same time.
But when I started implementing breath work a few years ago, the feeling of that was actually better than any drug I've ever taken.
Good things take time. This day and age that we live in with social media, we tend to see a lot of end product and a lot of success through bodybuilding, through training, through anything, through breath work. They take time. I think if you put your energy into things you can control and positive things, it will lead you out of the bad times as well. So I do gym, I do running because I do it because I'm improving myself, but it's also an outlet. And we all need outlets because we deal with stresses and worries in life. But if we just keep them in, it will build up, and then we don't know what to do with it, and that's when we can go through dark places. But we need to get it out in some sort of way. So outlets is a really important part of life.
Welcome to the One Talk podcast with McCarthy.
Today's episode is sponsored by TNC Metal Roofing. TNC Metal Roofing is a small family-owned business constantly striving to outdo competition on quality, appearance, and providing the most cost-effective roofing solutions. All aspects of metal roofing, from new roofs, re-roofs, fascia, and gutter-to-wall cladding. With many builders and private clientele, they are slowly growing to be the next big contender in North Brisbane. TNC stated they are loving the work One Talk does throughout the community and beyond, highlighting mental health is a major thing and often swept under the rug within the building industry, and they want to make it a topic. Never any project TNC will shy away from, and the mental health of their employees is always at the forefront. So check the link in this bio. You can find their website, you can find their Instagram. Please go show the love, go show the support. Also, if you need any roofing work done, I highly recommend hitting them up. They are the best in the business on Brisbane, and I highly recommend checking them out.
Thank y'all. The marathon continue. Lay that victory lap tonight, though. Victory lap tonight.
Welcome to the One Talk podcast with McCarthy.
The marathon continues. That's what you would say.
Welcome to the podcast, An Nguyen. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing really well. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I listened to your podcast with Shared Minds, and they're absolute legends. But also listening to your story on that podcast, it's super inspiring to see what you started to achieve early on in your bodybuilding career, but then also getting diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, but then also not letting that be something to hold you back, and to actually still pursue your dreams and your missions and finding a way. Like, that's just inspiring within itself. And I'm quite honored to have you on the podcast, mate.
No, I'm honored to be here as well, Ryan. I think you're doing some incredible work and having some special guests, but I think you have a mission that kind of aligns with who I am, and that's why I'm here with you today. Yeah,
beautiful. But to get into it, brother, I'd love to think of your first ever memory with fitness. Do you remember what the first thing was? Was it kicking the ball in the garden? Was it?
Yeah.
What was it?
I guess I'm Vietnamese in terms of Vietnamese Australian. So I grew up with two older brothers, and we were really into sports and just running around. And I think it was just running around the yard, chasing each other, playing soccer, playing rugby. So we were always active. Our dad watched the Brisbane Broncos. He loved rugby league.
Yeah.
So we watched that passionately. So we had that in our mind. So I think that was probably the first little bit and piece where I knew that maybe I had a little bit of gift being athletic and running around, and that was probably the beginning from there.
Nice. Being a kid, man, there's nothing better than just running around, eh?
No, it's not. And that's probably the reason, and we'll go into it. But now, currently, I'm doing marathon training and running, and like I've never done that before. But it actually does remind me when I was a kid and when I was just running free. And as an adult, sometimes you don't get to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's so exciting at the same time.
Yeah, because I think too many people get lost that they think it's childish to be childlike.
Yeah.
And I feel like we still got to keep like our inner child in us to have fun and express ourselves and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Because if we dim that side of ourselves, like I feel like we will end up living like a miserable life if we're not having fun and getting out there and doing the things we enjoy.
Exactly. I think, and even I'm learning a bit by myself during the training block I'm in at the moment, because I'm training for a marathon. I'm also training for a Paladin fitness race. And sometimes you can get so stuck in the training and you can get too serious at the same time. But when I come home and see my wife, I have to be a bit who I am as well. But I have to remind myself that, the thing I'm doing at the moment, I have to be grateful for, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to. But like you said, running around, being like a child, that inner child is really important to remember. Yeah.
Like you said there, like it also keeping the fun in your training too, because I don't know about you, but me personally, like if I've got to dive into some grit to push for a workout, sometimes I go to a dark place just to push through. And then I come out the other end and I'm like, oh shit, like I went to a really dark place there. Like, I didn't need to. So I think it is important, to have fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we all find our motivations in different ways, right? So I think like sometimes going to a dark place will get you there, but it's also reminding yourself that you've done this, you've accomplished this workout, and you've achieved something, to kind of celebrating that. That's the good in it, and being grateful. And I think gratitude is a really integral part of my life that I practice daily, and it's definitely gotten me out of dark times.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. It's probably one of the biggest medicines I've had is exercise. Yeah,
for sure. Like I think, I started my kind of fitness journey probably about 2010, so probably about 15 years ago, and it was kind of bit by bit where I started studying into human movement, applied science, and then I became a qualified personal trainer. And from that point on, I got more serious into it. I got more serious in terms of studying nutrition, and each year I would improve on my physique through bodybuilding. And each year, and I think it was the first time in 2011 was when I got abs for the first time. And when you get abs and lean, it's like, oh, wow, it's a big achievement. But then once you do that, it's keep on pushing further. And from that point on, I kept on improving. And then 2014, I helped my brother get in shape. He got abs for the first time. He was a bit overweight too. And then we launched our business called Shred Living in 2015. And that was the year we competed. And then that's the year I became a pro. So it kind of like each year, I was just kept on improving and leveling up, and that was really important to me. So
yeah, gradual build. And that's awesome. So like yourself and then your brother, like going from a bit overweight to getting abs, like what a feeling that must have been to begin with, like just being able to look at yourself and I guess be proud of the work that you put in.
Yeah, it is. And like we both competed in the ICM Brisbane show in 2015. What was funny, because we both competed in the same division, men's physique. But he didn't want to compete with me because we didn't want to compete in each other. So he competed in the novice class, which made me push into the open class. And at that time, I didn't think I was ready. But it was the first time he won his class and I won my class. It was the first time like two brothers have won like both classes like in a competition. And
so good.
Yeah, so it was so good to go through the journey. But what it allowed me to do was I won the open class, and then once you won the open class, you go to the overall. So all the open class winners compete against each other and go for the overall title. And then I managed to get it, and it was my first time, and I was actually surprised myself because I didn't think I was at that level. But that's kind of sometimes that belief within yourself. You don't think you're there, but it kind of validated everything I was doing was leading to that, obviously that trophy.
It's interesting too that like that internal dialogue that tries to convince you otherwise, isn't it? And it's like a battle of like you have to try and convince your subconscious mind of what it's trying to convince you against.
Yeah.
It's also, having practices in place to remind yourself, or have a story that you can tell yourself to convince yourself like, no, I can do this, or I do deserve this, rather than listen to that like little nagging voice in the back of your head.
Yeah, I think like self-talk is so integral, and like I spoke about gratitude before, but self-talk has been probably one of the most pivotal things that haven't gotten me through a lot of my adversities and my health challenges especially. Because I believe that, you know, we talk to our family, our partners, our friends, like so genuine and so nice. Yeah. But sometimes we talk to ourselves so harsh, right? You can say, you're an idiot, or why you know that, but why do we do that? But if we start to unlearn that behavior and talk to ourselves kindly, and give ourselves positive affirmations and really encourage each other and ourselves, I think it's been integral just for my success through my bodybuilding journey and also where I'm at now. Yeah.
So I find like the stories we tell ourselves is just instilling beliefs onto us. So it's like, is your own story that you're telling yourself, is that instilling beliefs that you want? Yeah. And if it's not, it's like, well, you might want to look at changing that, or look at changing the way you're talking to yourself or framing stuff.
Yep.
But with you, man, like, what was the story that you had to start telling yourself to really, I guess, remodel your own beliefs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like more recently, I'd say once I got diagnosed with my condition in 2016, it kind of changed everything for me. It changed my whole perspective on health. So if I rewind 6 months before that, I had competed in 2015. So I won the overall title, but that allowed me to get invited to a pro qualifier. And then I became second in that show and I got my pro card. So I became ICM pro. And then 6 months later, that's when I got diagnosed. So like your perspective on health changes so much because I think when you're in gym bodybuilding, it's all aesthetics and just, you know, looking good and, you know, feeling good. But when you go through a health challenges and then you get diagnosed with a condition where you don't know what's going to happen, it changed me because that kind of belief that I had before probably diminished a little bit. So I had to kind of rebuild it. And then even the last 3 years dealing with like kind of chronic health issues for about 2.5 years consistently, a lot of that self-belief was probably disappearing. Yeah. So the journey for me, and I've been very blessed the last 6 months I've been healthy, I had to kind of, retrain myself and instill that self-belief in me. And running has actually given me that. Running has kind of instilled that inner child, that inner belief in me. And I'm kind of going through the motions of that to kind of increase that belief within myself at the moment.
Yeah, but also it just shows, you know, like the journey's forever evolving. There's no like end destination where it's like, oh, it's finished now. You know, like I don't need to stop talking to myself positively, exactly. Or I don't need to stop doing. Like it's continuously going throughout all our life, and it's just finding new ways, I guess, to work with yourself.
Yep. Yeah. I think through the health challenges I had in the last 2.5 years, one thing that I really stayed consistent was, and I introduced was meditation. So a lot of breath work every morning or night, depending on what was suitable. But during that time when I do breath work, it was adding like self-talk. And I wouldn't say it out loud. I could say it out loud if I want to, but it was just in my mind. And like each morning now when I have a big run, like tomorrow when I do a half marathon, I will do my breath work, but I will talk to myself and say that, you know, you should be really proud of how far you've come. You've got a big run today. You're going to smash it. Yeah. You know, that little positive affirmation. So it just really motivates you. So you imagine if you had someone motivating in your life, a father figure or someone that you looked up to, and they say those words to you, you're going to feel motivated, inspired. But the better that you get yourself to say that to yourself and you start to believe it, it can become really powerful.
It can become magic.
Yes, it become magic, man. So it's awesome. It's such a gift, and a lot of people just don't understand or like, I think I've said this to my friends and family, like I've had my days of partying. I'm sure we all have had, like, we've done, all these things and drinking and partying, doing all these things, but there's no feeling that you can get from meditation and being present with yourself. And it's that euphoric feeling, and you can kind of get it within just breathing and just being present and being with yourself, which is something really powerful. So,
like I know I was telling you before the podcast, like that I was a drug addict for about 7 years of my life or 8 years of my life. But when I started implementing breath work a few years ago, the feeling of that was actually better than any drug I've ever taken, which is crazy. Because like if someone suggested to me to do breath work back when I was a drug addict, I would just laugh at them, like, I breathe all the time, what do you mean? But like once I actually started to practice, I was like, wait, this is actually one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah,
it is so powerful. Like I think my physio, she's quite spiritual at the same time, but she encouraged me too. And she told me that like, same thing. She would always struggle with being present, and she would maybe go to substances or whatever, but it allowed her when she did breathwork just to be present, and then she's like, geez, I can actually get the natural high on myself. And then, like the more you do it, and now my wife does it, and I'm really proud that she's doing it too. And she does breath work, she meditates, but she also writes down her thoughts, and she journals as well. And that's another like powerful thing that I've introduced to in the last 3 years is just journaling. It's almost like a little bit of therapy you can do for yourself, because you can write down some of the things that you're really proud of that you've done, achieved, maybe some of the challenges you're going. And then if you look back, it's like a little journal, and it's almost like your progression, but it's also a way to get out kind of the way you're feeling at the same time. So all these things that you can do for yourself, and that self-care is so powerful and so awesome.
Yeah, and it doesn't take like a 3-hour morning routine to do all this stuff. It can literally take like 15 minutes out of your day to knock all these things out. And then the result it gives you short term and long term, but both great. And there's no side effects to it.
Exactly, and you can do it anytime, and it's free. You know what I mean? It's like people go to therapy, and like fair enough, they can go to therapy, but there's a lot of things you can do within yourself. But you just have to like gym, like exercise, like anything in life. You just have to start it a little bit and keep focused and be consistent with it. And as you know, it will lead to like positive things though. So but like anything in life, some people just a bit apprehensive about it, but once they start doing, then they'll see obviously the good in it. So
because it's true. Because like if you go to the gym and train chest once a month, like by the end of the year you've trained chest 12 times. You're not going to be, you're not going to have a chest like Ronnie Coleman.
Exactly.
Like it takes consistency, showing up, even on the days you don't want to do it. I think that's important. Like the days I don't want to do the breath work and I do it, I'm more grateful that I did it than if I didn't do it.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where like you just have to show up. You just have to do it. And like you said, like good things take time. And I think, this day and age that we live in with social media, it's we tend to see a lot of end product and a lot of success. And
highlights.
How do we get there so quickly? But sometimes the journey in it, the journey of it is probably the most important part, because the journey is understanding like how you can get through the good and the bad. And that's the most important part. But people need to understand that good things do take time, like through bodybuilding, through training, through anything, through breath work. They take time. So you have to have patience and perseverance, but consistency is obviously a really important part of it.
And talking about getting through the good and the bad, I'd love to divert back to your story. Like at the highest of the highs, becoming professional and winning, 6 months later, getting diagnosed. Before we get to the diagnosis, I just want to quickly talk about the feeling that you got from the achievement of becoming professional and winning as well. Like, what was that moment like for you?
Yeah, like I said before, it was my first competition. So I had no real like expectations. Like my goal was to place in the top 3. That was my goal, which I achieved. Obviously I won, and I won the trophy. But that feeling that I got was similar to what we said before. Like you work so hard. So a prep for a competition would usually be minimum maybe 4 months minimum, but I did it for about 5 months just to give myself enough time. And you work so hard for that time because you're dieting, you're training 2 to 3 hours every day, almost. Like I'd maybe have one day off, and I got to a point where I think probably about 6 weeks out, I wasn't having no cheat meals whatsoever. I was really strict with it.
Round the clock work.
So you restrict yourself, and then when you do win it, it's just a euphoric feeling. Like I said, there's no drug or alcohol that can really give you that same feeling. And literally, it was such a euphoric feeling, but it also validated everything I was doing was the right thing, because I lifted that trophy, and this is all the hard work that I've done. So
because I was about to say, like a lot of people say, learn from your losses. But what did you learn from your winnings?
For me, I was so proud, like, because I think for me, like I said before, like there was also always a little bit of self-doubt, just because we have that naturally in ourselves. And I didn't know that I was going to be able to win. Like I had that, but once I lifted that trophy, like it allowed me to go, okay, it validated everything I was doing. So I pushed even further. And that's how I got my pro card in the second show. But it really just gave me more self-belief. That you get more self-belief, you have more confidence, and you can pursue more things. And my goal actually after becoming a pro
Yep.
was to actually go into bodybuilding. So I was in men's physique, so I was actually going to get bigger. But yeah, a few months later, I got sick for about 2 months, and that's ultimately when I got diagnosed with my condition.
Yeah, well, I'd love to understand more of the journey of getting diagnosed, because I find like with diseases or people going through health challenges, we always see the end result, you know, and we never hear about the story in between of what it's like getting diagnosed, the process of months of taking tests and all that, and then being able to deal with it yourself and understand it and deal with the life change and everything that comes after it. But to begin with on that part, like, how did you even start to know that something was happening within your body that you needed to get help with?
Yeah, so on the last day of, it was in 2016, on the last day of January, I woke up and I had double vision. So I was seeing like two things on top of each other, and that's not normal. And I had a really bad headache at the time. And then at that time, I was like in shock. I didn't know what to do. And the idiot of me actually went to work. I went to work. Within an hour, I got sent home. And then I went to see just my GP. And my GP just said, look, it could be something neurological or like something in your brain, or it could be really a bad headache at this stage. Let's just take things slow. They thought it might be a bad migraine that's affecting my vision. And they gave me just like, let me rest for a day, but it didn't get any better. And that's when I went into hospital. I thought it was related to my eye. So I saw an ophthalmologist, which is an eye specialist. And then when they saw me, I also started developing other symptoms as the days wore on. So I started developing like nausea, and I had this weird symptom. I had hiccups, like constant hiccups that I couldn't control, and I just kept on going. And then I had also this other weird symptom where if I look up, my eyes would just roll down.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I saw the ophthalmologist, they were like, okay, something's not right. And then they actually brought the whole neurology team in the hospital at the PA in Brisbane. And they thought that I was having a stroke at that time. So they said, yep, okay, you need to get admitted, get an MRI straight away. The MRI showed basically some lesions in the back of my spinal cord, and that leads to my brain. So that was causing all the vision, nausea, hiccups. So that's when they had to go through extensive testing. So I kind of dealt with those symptoms for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's
a long time.
Yeah, and I had to do so many blood tests every day. I had to do this other test called lumbar puncture, where they stick a needle into your spinal cord and they drain fluid. It wasn't pleasant. They numb you so you don't feel it, but that was a terrible test.
Yeah.
And then they also gave me a lot of steroid medication. So when I had the lesions, the steroids reduced inflammation or any of that. And then my double vision started subsiding. So it started coming back to normal, and the nausea started like subsiding. And then the doctors at the time didn't know what was going on, but they said, okay, you seem okay at the moment. So they sent me home.
Yeah.
I was home for about 2 days, and then I started developing other symptoms. So in my right eye, I started losing, my vision was getting blurry. I started losing vision. So over the course of the next few days, I went back to hospital.
Yep.
And by that time, they had a diagnosis ready for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's when they told me that I had a rare condition called neuromyelitis optica, which affects only about 1% of Australians. So it's a really rare disease. Wow. If you've heard of multiple sclerosis, it's like a sister or brother, very similar. It's basically where your immune system will attack the nerves in your central nervous system, specifically your eyes and your spinal cord. So it can lead to blindness. You can lose your ability to walk. It also can be fatal at the same time, though. So pretty serious condition. Yeah.
I've got a fair few questions.
Yeah,
around
right.
that.
No problem.
The first one is, what was your, I guess, mental health like in that period of waiting for the diagnosis? Because for weeks on end, getting tests, and at that time, you're probably looking for certainty. You're probably looking for confirmation. And you've got uncertainty within yourself, but then also the doctors are uncertain, which is like another layer to it. So for you, how would you, I guess, keeping yourself sane during that journey, man?
Look, it was, I had to deal with a lot of uncertainty. I think the main thing I just relied on was my support network. So my wife at the time and my family, my friends were just there, just encouraging. And I think support network's been a really integral part of me getting through my health journey. So, I think when the doctors actually told me about my condition, they actually told me, they were trying to explain it. They were like, you've got neuromyelitis optica, which is called NMO. And I'm like, what's that? And then they actually made me Google it at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when you Google, it's like the worst case scenario. So I saw like things like, like how long will you live with NMO? Will you lose your eyesight? Stuff like that. And that scared me. And then the first question I asked the doctor was, am I going to be able to live a normal life? And he said, I don't know. Yeah, and that's a scary thing to hear, right? Because if a doctor can't reassure you of that. But he did say to me that every case is different. But I just had to kind of lean on my support network. At the time, I didn't do any meditation or breath work, but I was always a kind of positive person. So I think I stayed resilient a little bit through that, but I was scared. I was, in all honesty, I was scared because at the time, my vision was still blurry. It took probably about maybe a week or two. They gave me more steroid medication. And then my vision started coming back. But I've lost about 40% of color in this right eye. So I see things a little bit weird than compared to a normal person. But the treatment for my condition, there's no cure. So I had to be given a immunosuppressive medication. So medication that suppresses your immune system. So it stopped the attacks from happening, but the repercussions of that is a weakened immune system. So I can get sick really easily. And if I get a virus or an infection, it will take a lot longer for me to recover. And that's what I kind of have been dealing with for the last 2.5 years, dealing with other issues related to that.
That's heavy, man. Because how do you what's the measures you go to make sure you don't, I guess, get sick or do anything to make your immune system worse or get ill? Because I can imagine one part of you is you don't want to be too off limits in life, but also you don't want to be over paranoid, but also you don't want to be too blasé about it. How do you, I guess, measure all that?
You know what? It's still a journey. It's still a journey because there's times where when I did deal with the kind of issues in the last 2.5 years. So what I was dealing with was I was getting chronic bronchitis, chronic chest infections every 2 weeks, and it was just repeating, and no drug, no antibiotic could really resolve it. And then, I kind of isolated myself. During COVID, I wore a mask. I stayed at home a lot more. I wasn't social. And maybe I was probably going through the physical battles, but also the mental health battles at the same time, if you know what I mean. But then now that I'm healthy, I'm living my life kind of normal. So it's kind of just finding that balance. So I believe for myself, when there's good times, just do what you feel is right, if you know what I mean. But I think I just had to go through that journey. I still wear a mask when I go to shopping centers, and I traveled recently, so I wore a mask on the plane and stuff like that. But I can't say specifically that I'm doing it, but it's just the way I feel at the moment, really, though. So
it's high populated areas or where it's going to be busy, you just take extra precaution.
And because I recently went to Vietnam about 2 weeks ago for about 2 weeks, and on the plane, and we went to Ho Chi Minh, Saigon, which is a very dense, in terms of population and stuff like that. So, but they actually wear a lot of masks because the pollution is really bad over there. So I did do that at the same time, but sometimes wearing a mask is just annoying at the same time too, you know what I mean? So, I'm still finding that journey, and I think the medication that I'm on at the moment does, it suppresses my immune system, but I'm kind of discovering what I can and can't do at the same time. And I know that if I'm constantly getting sick, then maybe I just need to protect myself a little bit more. My doctors do make me do all the vaccines every year, so I have to take every vaccine. So that I have to be up to date. So those are the things that kind of protect myself. But I'm the type of person too where I don't want to limit myself. So if I feel good, then I just run free and do whatever I need to do at the same time.
Still live your life.
Exactly.
When you got the diagnosis and you found out that 1% of people have it in Australia, did you have a thought come in saying, why me?
100%. I think through the first few weeks you go through that because you play the victim and you go, why? And I do believe in God, and I was just questioning, why me? But once I kind of started getting better, I got my vision back, so that reassured me that I didn't lose my eyesight because I was scared to go blind. And then I got discharged. I got discharged probably within about 3 weeks after that. And then I started I had a visit with the doctors, and I asked them, I said, oh, can I go to the gym? Can I do this? And they said to me, they're like, you can do whatever you like, but ultimately you got to figure out what works for you. Like you can go to the gym, and if it works and it helps you, then do it. So that gave me permission. So I started going back to the gym. So I was off to the gym for about 3 months.
Yeah, okay.
So I lost a lot of strength. And during that time when I was sick, I lost about 6 kilos. So a lot of muscle mass. So when I went back to the gym and I was trying to do a pull-up and I barely could do like 2 or 3, whereas back then I was doing like 4 sets of 15. Yeah. It was a wake-up call, but it was just like, okay, I've just got to get back in here and take it step by step. And once I kind of was feeling good and I kind of started like taking a few months to get back to where I was, it kind of gave me that confidence again. So I think if you put your energy into things you can control and positive things, it will lead you out of the bad times as well. So
100% amen to that.
Yeah, for sure.
But like for yourself, man, like for that 3 month period coming back to the gym, did you have somewhat of an identity crisis? Because you had this identity, of a pro bodybuilder. Yeah. And then 3 months later, you're struggling to do the chin-ups that you're doing, or the pull-ups. Yeah. Like, was there an identity crisis when you went back to the gym, or were you more okay with it?
I think I've definitely gone through an identity crisis, but I probably wasn't really aware of it at the time. Yeah, and I was just more focusing my energy on what I could control at the time. And one of the things that I did that year, because early in the year, my wife and I wanted to go to America. We planned it for about mid-year. I think it was June, July. And when I got diagnosed in March that year, I was kind of going, okay, maybe I shouldn't go, just because I didn't know what was going to happen. But by May, as I started training and feeling good, I decided to go. So I guess I had maybe distractions in a way that like I could focus my energy into enjoy life. And I actually went to America and I enjoyed it. I had the best time of my life with my wife. We went to EDC, which is a music festival over there, and we got to see our friends and family and stuff like that too. So I think like I had good things to distract my mind, but I guess when I came back, I still had to work through that journey because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I started like a medication that I have never tried before. Yeah. And that journey kind of wore on. And then even, that question you said like about identity, even the last 2.5 years, like I'm still kind of figuring out that identity crisis because it kind of changes. And, but I'm kind of at a place where I kind of know where I'm heading. And I've had the ability because I've been healthy. Which is I'm just focusing my energy on that at the moment.
I love that you said that, man. That's an important point, that your identity constantly changes, because it does, like who we were 5 years ago is not who we are now. And we don't have to stay stuck in our old ways just because that's how things were once upon a time. Like we're always allowed to reinvent ourselves. We're always allowed to step into an identity that feels more natural to us in the time, because we do evolve, like as time goes on, we learn more, we get more experiences, we meet more people. We age as well, which kind of gives us a bit of wisdom, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
But like our identity can always evolve, and that's a good thing, like constantly trying to seek that and find that.
Yeah, I think like I'm in my mid-30s, and like I constantly have conversations with my family and friends, and like every person I talk to, they're going through some sort of identity change, because I think they might be doing something that they don't truly love, or something that they're passionate about. So they're always thinking about, what can I do, or what's next in a way, and that's what I probably encourage people to do, to really step outside that comfort zone and pursue something that they are passionate about to do, because you're at that age where like you are starting a family, and you want to be there for your kids, but if you're at a job or you're doing something that you don't love, it's going to pass on to your family, so you want to be able to be happy and present and doing something you love, so you can share that, you can share that celebration, that positivity. So I think constant, like those conversations that I have with people, my friends and family, but also my clients, like it's a constant thing. So I think, I'm going through identity crisis in a way because I was fit and healthy, and then I had to deal with chronic illnesses. But I think we all are dealing with in some sort of capacity, like I said before, but it may be at different things, but I encourage people to pursue what they want to do, because that's really important.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And like you said before, to like the things that we're leaving behind. That's a good thing with social media and even podcasts. And now, like, we're leaving the digital footprint.
Yep.
So like this podcast we're doing now, 20 generations after us could be listening to it.
For
You know,
sure.
of our family. And how cool is that? Like, because when I think of it, like my great-great-granddad, like I have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
Or even my great-great-granddad, I have no idea who he is. But now we live in a time where we can really put a stamp
Yeah, definitely.
in history, which is really cool.
Yeah. No, and you should be proud of what you're doing because like you said, like our podcast is timeless because we do radio, we do that, and interviews. It's like that conversational piece is so important, but the storytelling part is integral. You know, like we tell stories because it is able to articulate what we've gone through, good and bad, and also maybe inspire people and motivate people at the same time. But I think, you know, podcasting is such a beautiful thing because sometimes when we get stuck with things, and I definitely got stuck in a dark place when I went through my health challenges, especially in the last 3 years. But I listened to a lot of podcasts and I listened to people's stories of resilience, of how they got through tough times. Yeah. And it actually validates some of the things you're feeling, you know what I mean? Like some of the things you're feeling, you go, oh, they felt that way too. Yeah. So I'm not the only one, you know? And that's important. And that's the reason why people should listen to podcasts or seek out help for therapy, because sometimes we think that we're the only people going through it and we go through a dark place. But once you speak to other people, they're all going through battles in their own way. And podcasting is just another way that we can have an outlet or be in therapy in a way. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because like people get caught up too much in that no one will understand. But then when you hear a podcast and has someone else relate to you or something similar along the lines, like, oh, wait, maybe other people might understand. That can open up the doorway for you to start talking. And especially for yourself, man, like props to you for wanting to come on podcasts and to share your story as well, because you never know who might be listening to this, might be going for their own diagnosis journey or health journey. Definitely. And then hearing what you're going through and relate to it a lot. But for yourself, like going through that that stage in life where you were getting diagnosed, like what do you think is one piece of advice you would give to yourself at that point?
Yeah, definitely at that time, just be kind to yourself, you know, just be really, you know, say those words where like, it's going to be okay. Take this day by day. And that's definitely something that I learned. And just, be really kind to yourself. And probably the biggest lesson that I definitely learned through my health challenges was just being present and taking things day to day, because that question you asked about before was when you get diagnosis, it leads to so much uncertainty. And the natural thing you think of is you think ahead and you think, and that creates anxiety because you're trying to think too far ahead. But if you focus all your energy into day to day, and that's probably what got me through those first probably 3 to 6 months, because I just focused on getting back on track, if you know what I mean. And then I went to America, which is such a celebration because I didn't think I'd do it, and I had the best time of my life. And then I got back to work. So there's little steps and step by step to progress forward, brick by brick in terms of running and all that stuff. Yeah, it's really important. So being present has allowed me to kind of be where I'm at the moment.
Oh, that's awesome, because especially when you went to the doctor and asked them, am I going to be able to live a normal life? At that time, how did you define a normal life?
That's the funny thing now, hey, because there's no, I actually kind of throw that word out of the vocabulary because there's no real thing as normal because, like I said, I connect with community, with people with NMO, and like you said, there's only about 250 people in there. And they all have different stories, and there's no normality because some people are quadriplegic, some people have lost vision, and then even talking to other friends that have chronic illnesses and stuff like that. So there's no normality. And then I have a lot of friends that have kids that are autistic, and so there's no throwing that word of normality. It's because normality is different for everyone.
You got to define it for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so important. So
I've got a question. I'm not sure if it's going to sound stupid, but you were saying that it attacks the nervous system.
Yep.
So my understanding is that our fight or flight is also a part of our nervous system.
Yep.
So did that affect that in any state? Like your stress levels, how you can manage stress?
Yeah.
How did that?
Yeah. During the time when I had all the symptoms, I was definitely stressed because I was like, what the hell is going on with my body? Yeah. And I had to do all these tests, and they were like pricking me, also many blood tests, my arms were bruised. So I was definitely stressed, but I definitely had to lean on my support network. Like I think that's what allowed me to stay a bit calm, and they just said, everything's going to be okay. Just keep on listening to your doctors on the day-to-day. Don't think too far ahead. So I've been very blessed that I've had a really strong support network that has really been there. And like my wife has been my biggest rock, and, we have been through so much adversity, and I'm actually really proud. I was actually driving here and I was thinking about like what I'm most proud of, and it's probably like the people that we've become, because we're resilient, we're strong, but and you know how like we talk about like our identities, and like our identities have changed because as we got older, but I think that one thing that we've always been consistent with is our communication and our trust and our love, and it's actually grown and evolved in such a different way now, and it's evolving as we have plans to start a family and stuff like that in the future. But my support network was my number one thing that really allowed me to alleviate my stress during those times.
I love that. I think I'm most proud of is who we become. Like, it's not the materialistic things of the world, it's like the person we've become. I love that. I think like when people talk about success and legacy, like for me it's about the impact I've had on people, like in helping people, but also the things that I've done. And like, if I can say that I'm proud of in 20 years time, that I'm really proud of the person I am, that's the legacy I want to create. Because I think with social media, like we said before, we see the end product, we don't see the journey. And I always think about my mentality with things is, how am I going to leave my legacy? And that's the reason why I'm doing some of the things I'm doing this year, because they are so out of my comfort zone, but they will leave a mark on my legacy. That's it. It's like, because the things you're doing this year, you're doing a marathon, you've got a few challenges coming up.
I've got the Gold Coast Marathon in July 6th in 10 weeks' time, and I'm running for the Gold Coast Hospital Foundation. So I've raised over $4,000 and it's continuing. But
that's awesome.
I'm proud of that because I've been through my health challenges, so I understand that I'm raising money for the people that have been through what I've been through and are still going through what I've been through. And to be able to run not just only for myself, my family, my friends, and those people, it's just going to give me a boost when I do run that marathon. So
it's like that little extra energy it can give you, because I find when you do something bigger than yourself, like you can drive from your own inspiration and the things you've been through, but then when also you have people out there doing it for as well, it's like that little extra thing. It's like a second wind you can take on with you.
And you need in a marathon, when you run 42.2 kilometers, you're going to need every boost that you can get.
You need 42 second wins.
You're going to need every boost that you can get. So I'm super proud of it. And I said to you before when we started recording, it's like 6 months ago I didn't think I'd be preparing for a marathon. But here I am, and I'm enjoying my training block at the moment, and I'm just embracing something new that I've never done before. So super excited about it.
I love that, because when you did get back into training after diagnosis and you first got back into the gym, like what was your goal at that point? Was it to see how it goes, do what you can, or did you have a specific goal you wanted to get to?
Yeah, it's a good question. So probably about 6 months after the diagnosis, once I started training, so there was only one other symptom I had, which was probably about 2 months after the diagnosis, where I had this numbness and tingling down my legs for about a month, and it would just come on and come and go, but it didn't do anything, and it eventually went away. So I was really blessed, because 2016 that was the only year I had my attacks with like NMO. But after that, I had no issues. But 6 months, I started training again. And then I was getting back to the physique where I was before. And then I decided, because I became pro in 2015. So 2017, there was the first pro show in Australian history, which was in, I think, October in 2017. So that was my goal. And I did that show. I came sixth. Wasn't in the best shape as I was before, but I was proud because of what I've been through.
So still, bro, like getting six is massive.
Yeah, I was really proud, but at that time, I hadn't shared with anyone about my condition, so I just went through everything as normal on social media and everything like that. But I was proud because I did it with myself, and I remember being backstage and seeing some of the competitors that I competed with, and some of them were so disappointed that they didn't place. But here I am, just smiling and proud and happy because, yeah, I did it because I've just faced so much adversity in that last 12 months or so. So, yeah.
Do you feel like it added a whole different purpose to competing?
Yeah, it definitely did because I knew that, I guess I had a handicap in a way, you know what I mean? But that actually probably motivated me even more, if you know what I mean? Like I knew I had this condition, but it probably spurred me even more to do this and push harder. And the only reason why I probably didn't get in the same condition as I was in 2015 was I was also pursuing my 9 to 5, like pursuing a promotion. So I had really 2 big things all at once at that time. Oh, wow. So, in life, sometimes focusing your energy in one thing, you can be really successful. But when you have 2, you can only probably balance and get to a place where. So, but I was still proud though at the same time though. Yeah.
But to still do that as well, while trying to balance the two and to smash it out, man. Like that's an incredible feat, because anyone going for a health challenge, it shows that like you put your mind to something, you have a goal, like you can still find a way to get quote unquote success, depending on what you define success as. Yeah. But in that thing that you're pursuing. Yeah. And for you, it was that getting on stage, placing 6, which is massive. Yeah. And these are international competitors. So we had competitors coming from all over Asia, UK. Wow. So it was an international based show, and that level, because I competed 2 shows, but they were like Queensland based. So to compete international level was to place 6. Like when I think about it now, I'm like, oh wow, it's a massive achievement. And then, but seeing some of their physiques, it's on another level, and that's elite at the same time. But yeah, I was just really proud to step on stage. I remember doing a bit of a vlog for that, and sometimes I watch it again. But at the same time, it's funny because I guess the diagnosis and the condition motivated me, but you can see within me that I still pushed through and was resilient. So I think resilience has been such a big thing for me, just to be able to push through all the health challenges that I had. And even now, like when I train for a marathon, I still get sick, I still get colds, and stuff like that, but I still have to battle through it. And I still have to train. And marathon training is a whole different beast to bodybuilding. You're running like 42 to 50 kilometers a week. Wow. Bodybuilding, are you doing that much running at all? Like
no, like I was doing more. Obviously I'll do my weight training, but you do a lot of low intensity and high intensity, like HIIT. That's my type of cardio that I was doing back then. Yeah. Okay. And the longest walk or stair climber you would do is maybe like 60 to 70 minutes. Like there was times where I think that last prep I did for the pro show, I was a bit behind schedule, so I was doing like 2 hours a day. But when you run, like I ran 19 kilometers last Saturday, you burn like 1,600 calories within that run. Wow. You know what I mean? So you have to fuel yourself. So it's a different beast with bodybuilding where you're in a calorie deficit. Yeah. So you're trying to minimize and trying to burn fat, but it's a whole different beast because you need to fuel yourself to have those runs and do everything as well. So,
because like with training, and you're saying like your sessions are like 3 hours when you're going to the gym for pro bodybuilding, but it like running 19 kilometers, like you need a lot more. Do you feel like you need more fuel to run 19 kilometers than you would for 3 hours of training weights? You're
not thinking about the way you look, because it's performance based. So you have to fuel yourself to have enough energy to do that run. And then what I'm currently doing now with these long runs, like I have to do I did 19K last week. I'm doing 21 half marathon tomorrow. Is you have to fuel yourself while you run, so you have to take running gels. So that's tricky in itself. You got to take a packet, peel it, and then squeeze it in your mouth while you're running. But no, it's been really enjoyable. But I'm just astonished about the results that I'm achieving at the moment, and that's what's really spurring me on at the moment. And not only do I do marathon, I'm a Paladin Fitness Race ambassador, and I've got my first race in 2 weeks' time in Brisbane. And then I've got another one 2 weeks after the marathon in Gold Coast in July 20th. And then I've got another one late in the year. So those are other things I'm training for at the moment. And they're different because Paladin is more of a high intensity type of really cardio-based strength and condition. There's endurance aspects to it. So the challenge to train for both is a little bit challenging, but I'm really embracing it at the moment though. Yeah.
I feel like that's where the fun comes into it, where they're all a bit different. You're training for them, but it adds a bit of complexity to it. So it activates that problem solving side of our brain as well and gets us fully engaged into it.
I think for me, on the days where you know, we always have days where we don't want to do the training or we're feeling a bit tired or feeling a bit down. But I always remind myself that I'm actually in a unique place, that I'm doing these two different type of races at the moment that probably a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do you know. So I really remind myself of that and go, this is what you wanted to live a athlete lifestyle, so embrace it and do it, you know. And that self-talk for me is really what motivates me and spurs me on.
I love that, because like your training is intense as well, but on the other side of it, like what does your recovery look like? Like do you have to take extra measures into place because of health challenges, or do you, like, what does a recovery session look like usually?
I think honestly running and has allowed me to really focus on the recovery side, because when you're running, it's such a repetitive exercise, hard on your knees, hard on your joints. So it's allowed me to really, and it actually reminded me back of like when on my bodybuilding days, when I was like at that pro level, because I had a lot of emphasis on the recovery. But I think a few years after that, once I was working a lot, I just trained and I didn't focus my energy into the recovery. But now that I'm running, I make sure that my nutrition is always on point. So staying hydrated. One thing that I've done through the health journey as well and through my health challenges is I've reduced basically processed food. And I don't eat fast food anymore. So it's one big thing. And I love KFC. So like my family used to eat all the time.
Zinger burger.
But I don't eat it anymore and I don't have any temptation anymore. But that's actually really helped me, because I think one thing I understood was there was inflammation building in my body, eating those processed food, fried food. And that's a part of the recovery process. And then also ice baths when I can, but stretching, foam rolling, massage gun, stretching. I commit to that kind of every day on basis. Breath work has really helped, because, you know, when I get sick with those chest infections, and it allows me to kind of breathe through it, because naturally when you're sick, you don't want to breathe like deeply, but sometimes it actually helps clear out the congestion in your chest and stuff like that too. So I think a lot of the things that I've applied during kind of the health challenges has allowed me to actually just figure out and know my body best, because that's probably one thing I definitely have learned through my journey, that I know my body best. And sometimes when I question it, but if I know my body best, then I just do what I need to do. So
because I think I heard you say on the Shared Minds podcast as well, and it probably ties in with you doing breath work and cardio, but you're saying that the doctor said that running increases your lung capacity, which will also help you as well.
Yeah, that was actually the reason why I got into running. So last year, I just said to them, I was like, you know, what other holistic things can I do to really help, you know, battle this at the moment? They said, well, building your lung capacity, because if this continues, it could get worse. So if you have strong lung capacity, then you can kind of combat it. So that's the reason why I decided to kind of start running last year. And I was just doing small runs, 3K, 5K, 6K was probably tops. And then in November, I had a meeting with my doctors, and I was on basically like 3 medications all at once. And then we basically took away 2 just because it wasn't working. And I actually had my wife there at the same time. And naturally, if I was there by myself with those doctors, I would say, oh crap, this is, you know, not working. So what's next? But my wife said to me, oh, it's a good thing. They're taking some medication away from you. Now you can just let your body heal. And it was actually like quite refreshing. And then that kind of switched my perspective at that point. And then I started running more, and that's when I did my first 10K, and that kind of kickstarted the kind of the marathon journey that I'm going through right now. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Because before people get into running, they probably don't understand like the runner's high you get, or the addiction you can get to running. But were you surprised with like how much you might start to enjoy running? Like, because before it, I'm not sure if you thought that I actually might enjoy this thing, because running sucks to begin with.
It definitely does.
So like once you start, you know, getting milestones and going further, and then you start to reflect, like I've actually made good progress and stuff. Like, did you realize like how much you might start to enjoy it?
Yeah, it's funny because like I always said to myself, and this is probably the negative self-talk, that I always said to myself, I'm not a runner.
I'm not a runner.
I'm not a runner. Like I did bodybuilding. I did play a lot of like touch footy back then. So I just thought that I was made for like explosive spurts of speed and stuff like that. So I always said to myself, I'm not a runner. But once I kind of did, I started running, but I changed my why. And I think the why was because of my long-term health benefits. Yeah. But then I started getting good results from it and started achieving some milestones, like you said. Then I started getting that runner's high, and I started going, oh, this is not too bad at the moment too. And then it actually unlocked something that I never thought I could do. But also it's been really beneficial because during my time of sickness, I stayed indoors a lot. I was isolated or maybe at a hospital. But being outdoors, getting that fresh air, getting the sun, it was, and I'm doing it so frequently, it actually gave my body something different that I haven't had in such a long time. So and that was something that I probably underestimated in a way.
Yeah, it's like you're nourishing your body.
Yeah. And like my physio, like I said, she's quite spiritual, but she said that, you need to be grounded. So going outside, getting your fresh air, getting your sun is really important. It really allows you to ground, but also unlocking that inner child, like we said, being able to just run freely. Like we did that as children all the time, but as an adult, you don't do that as often. So running just when I actually did my 19K the other day, I actually just thought about that. I was like, oh, I get to run like a kid, run freely and just, enjoy this, you know what I mean? And then now I'm at a point where I love it and I'm addicted to it though. So,
yeah, that's why I signed back up to soccer, because I took like a massive break. I did get injured for a bit, but then I also just didn't get back into it. And then my life was so robotic. Like I was so serious and doing everything, like just trying to achieve this, do this, do this. And this season I decided to sign back up. Honestly, the best thing I've done, because me growing up, like I'm English, like soccer's life.
That's it.
But like now I'm back into it. Like you can kind of connect back to that younger self playing again, and you can channel it through something, which is for me soccer. For you, it's running.
And soccer will probably give you that community, right? You'll be with other players, and you're just enjoying things together too. And I actually do miss that, because I used to play like touch footy all the time, and we used to play in a team sport, and running actually has given me that community aspect, because I tend to run with people. I'll run in a run club, and that community aspect is there because we're all just there just to improve. And I'm really looking forward to even Paladin to that's a community in a different way, and we get to like just be there to compete, compete with ourselves, but just motivate each other, be a part of a community where we're doing something positive. And it's sometimes you just have to do things that are uncomfortable, but they give you something that you kind of never expect.
I think community is like such an important part for our health, like mental health and well-being, because I was going to probably about 10 years, I was going to the gym, but just training by myself. And I just lost so much interest in it. I kind of was just giving up and going. Like I'd still go, but I'd dread going. And then I signed up to like a group HIIT style gym. And once I started going there, like I fell back in love with exercise. And then I started looking forward to seeing people and getting there and saying hello. And once I got community involved into exercise, I refound my love for it.
It's different though, because like I'm an online coach, and when I speak to clients too, and like each client will enjoy different types of exercises. Some will enjoy going to the gym on their own because they're self-motivated. But some just like to go to, a Fit Stop or a BFT just because there's someone to tell them what to do. They don't have to think, you know what I mean? And then there's already exercises created for them. So, I believe that just as long as you're doing something positively for your body, that's all that really matters though. So it doesn't matter what you do. So
that's it. And health and fitness doesn't have like one set rule. Like you have to play badminton every week. It's like
one of my clients does play badminton.
Oh, awesome. I love badminton. That was my favorite thing in school.
I'm so bad at it though.
It's like there's not like a rule book on what you have to do. It's like as long as you're getting out, moving, being mobile, and you're enjoying it, that's the main thing. Like don't go and do something you hate. Like if you you hate lifting weights, don't do that. Like find something that you do enjoy doing that's active.
That's the most important part. As long as you're doing something that, and some people that actually don't have any sports. So I was talking to my cousin because he came from Sydney yesterday. We went to the Broncos Bulldogs game, and then I was just saying to him, I was like, some people's hobbies are just, being handy. Like they do a lot of work, renovations, or they work on their truck or on their car and stuff like that. That's their outlet, and they're still kind of moving and they're being physical. So I think, our definition of exercise can be evolved in different ways, because as long as there's movement, That's important too. But I think there's also a mental aspect because I do gym, I do running because I do it because I'm improving myself, but it's also an outlet. And we all need outlets because we deal with stresses and worries in life. But if we just keep them in, it will build up and then we don't know what to do with it. And that's when we can go through dark places, but we need to get it out in some sort of way. So outlets is a really important part of life.
100%, because if I'm having a bad day and I'm trying to convince myself not to go and exercise, but if I force myself to go anyway, like I've never left the gym and regretted going.
For
you know what I mean? Like it's never happened. But I always regret if I don't go. But it's like that internal dialogue of convincing yourself. And it's like you got to kind of look into the future and convince yourself like I'm gonna feel good after it. Trust me, like it'll be good. But I don't think I've ever forced myself to go and exercise, finished and regretted it. Like it's never happened.
You just got to show up. You just got to show up. You know what I mean? And I think those that internal dialogue that I'm a bit tired. Should I have a rest day? But you know when you get there, you feel so much better for it. And I think like. Us as humans, we know that like when we get to a location, like our body changes because like once we get to the gym, we know that this is a place that we need to exercise and focus and be present. But you just got to show up and get there. So I think that's the most important part. And showing up and just being there was like probably a really integral part of my health journey because you know there was times where I felt like, oh man, well is there no end to what's going to happen? Like I was dealing with all these illnesses and being sick with the respiratory and chronic. Like during that time, I was like, what's going to happen? Like, is this my life? But then even when I didn't believe in myself, I leaned on my support network. But then I realized to myself, if I kept on showing up every day and doing something positive, that was the most important part.
Yeah. And like wanting to go and study counseling as well. I think you just summarized the two reasons why. Maybe one is probably the own challenges you've been through. That's inspired it. But also the other one, you'd know a lot more about this than me, but becoming a PT, like you think it's about physical health, but once you start working one-on-one with people, you start to realize that a lot of it's mindset as well. And then I'm not sure like in the PT course if you learn about mindset and psychology, but I feel like a lot of the barriers and challenges people face starts in the mind before it starts, you know, doing the physical change. So was that also an inspiration for you to study counseling as well as your health challenges?
Definitely is. Like for me, the challenges I've been through, I really am passionate about helping people. So that's my mission, like my life mission. But, you know, helping people with chronic illnesses. But I think that I do train people in terms of online coaching. It also gives me like something new in the future that I would like to be holistic with my coaching because like I said, and I've introduced it a little bit now when I do coach my clients. So we add a bit of mindset into it where I talk about just their life in terms of their job, how they're doing with their relationships. And, you know, we just break down some of the things that's working for them, maybe somewhere they're getting stuck and what they would do differently. But a lot of the time I just listen and I just ask questions to get them to unlock rather than me telling them what to do. And it's really helped. And then as I've studied further into my counselling as well, there's a lot of skills that I probably have been already using that I know that I'm doing at the moment, but there's also things I'm learning at the moment. But yeah, I'm just passionate about mental health just because of the journey that I've been through myself and being able to overcome adversities and setbacks.
100%, because I feel like that's a good piece of advice that you shared there as well, is that you're not trying to fix these people, you're not trying to give them solutions, instead like listen and ask questions, which is important. Because I remember a few months ago, a close friend of mine, because he knows the type of work that I do, and he goes, I don't think I'd know like how to respond to someone if they came to me with a deep challenge. Like I don't know how to, you know, help them. And I'm like, the best thing to do is just listen and ask questions.
That's it.
And I feel like listening is such like an undervalued skill to, you know, to do. And that's probably what podcasting has taught me the most. When I first started this podcast, I'd ask a question and then like I'd start talking again and like I wouldn't give room to listen and let an answer come into fruition. But once I started to, you know, learn to listen and do that a lot more, I feel like it just made the depth of conversation a lot better on podcasting. But then also I started to realize that helped a lot more people that I'm trying to help just by listening to them.
Yeah, it's a really important aspect of life, and they definitely talk about in counselling, listening and active listening and the skills you do. But like if you could apply that to everything, and like that's one thing that that my wife and I have introduced a lot, probably in the last year or so, like really listening to each other more. And we actually do a little bit of coaching with each other. Like we do it every week. So we do over Sunday dinner, we do like a weekly recap. And we just talk about, our week in terms of the successes we've had, some of the challenges and some of the things we'd like to achieve. But we also talk about maybe some of the things we could do differently. And we just talk to each other. But it gives us a platform for us to just share. Because sometimes like in the day-to-day just go through the motions a little bit, but we have commit to that. I have a reminder on my iPhone every Sunday at 6 p.m. to do our weekly recap, and it's actually really helped us like in get through my health challenges and just be really present with each other, and we've committed to it. And I'm trying to commit to like we went to Kangaroo Point, we watched the sunset last week and we did it. So I'm trying to commit to doing it at a nicer place rather than home, though. But we'll see how it goes.
Add some scenery to it.
Yeah, adding to it though, man. But it's been beautiful, and I think the listening aspect has been so integral. Like because when I listen to her, sometimes I want to chime in, but I need to remind myself just to take a step back and let her say everything she needs to say. Maybe I ask a question to unlock a little bit more. But it's been so positive since then.
That's it, because like, am I listening to reply or am I listening to understand?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I love that with relationships too, because communication is so important. But also like what you guys do is like actually ask questions and reflect and build rather than just communicating with like, I guess, calling up like, oh, what do you need from the shop? Like just like basic general conversation, which every relationship does. But to take it that step further, I feel like that's what creates long lasting relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we touched on earlier that relationships evolve, and you and your wife have evolved over the years, but a big contributor to that and you two still being together and being happy and in love is because you communicated over those years as well.
Yeah. And like I kind of reflect on like like I said when I was driving here and reflecting on our successes, like we don't have everything in place. Like at the moment we're currently renovating a home and we wanted to be done sooner, but my health challenges kind of prevented that. But we don't have everything together, but we're happy together. You know what I mean? We're content with what we have, and we're working our way slowly towards what we need to do. But like when I talk to other couples, and not just saying like they have issues or like they're dealing with things, but I look at us and some of the things that we're dealing with, like if there are any issues, they're very minor. But it's because of the communication and how deep we do go in terms of our reflection and understanding each other, because I think it's important, like you said, as we do get older, we do change, and I know that eventually at the moment with the things we're working on, and then when we become parents, we're going to be different people. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. That was a big identity thing for me, becoming a dad, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually a father now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole new identity, right? Yeah.
But like with going back to the relationship as well, like me and my wife, we've been together for 5 years. And in that 5 years, we've argued once, and that was like at the beginning of our relationship. Then we put like a nail in the butt to give an analogy. But when I say that to people, sometimes I feel bad for saying that, because like I don't want to seem like I'm bragging and things are perfect. But it's just like, because I grew up in an environment where there's a lot of arguments, right? And I thought that was normal. And I had to learn a lot within myself to realize that's not how you solve conflict. And then like in 5 years, we've had one argument. But the reason is because now we actually communicate, we talk, we have conversations, we understand we're not both going to agree in every single little aspect of life, and that's okay, and we love each other regardless. And it's like the reason why is because we always communicate, we always talk, and if you do that, you're gonna definitely skip all the big arguments or all the nasty things that can come in toxic relationships. Like as long as you communicate, things will be good.
Yeah, because you're not holding in things, and then when you hold in things, it builds to resentment, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if you're constantly just talking about maybe some of the challenges you're both going through, then you can kind of work through it together. And those like recaps that we do, maybe some of the challenges that we go through and we share them, then we just kind of like, we listen to each other, but then we kind of like, if my wife is getting stuck or I'm getting stuck, we just kind of talk it through and maybe think of a solution that we can try.
Yeah.
It might not work, but it's something that we can try. But that communication is so integral for a relationship, and and I understand that my wife and I aren't the same people. Like we're two different people, but that's probably why we worked well together. And sometimes I always push her to, and I know that I have a strong mindset in terms of like being where I'm at, but I understand that she's different, and I have to sometimes remind myself to take a step back with that. Because sometimes she's like, why are you pushing me so hard? You know what I mean? But it's one of those things where like I do remind myself that I'm different in terms of my mindset and my drive and stuff like that. So I have to take a step back with that too. So yeah.
That's it. It's like understanding like how people like to, I guess, go through their own things and like, like, because for me, I'm very solution minded. So if I'm going for a challenge, like I love someone to offer a solution. That's what I'm looking for. But my wife doesn't want like just breathe or anything like that. She doesn't want a solution, but like even with yourself, like you can't project like your own coping mechanisms on the people as well. So for me, it's just listening, understand, but that comes through the conversation I've had with my wife. Like, what do you want from me in this moment? Like when you are stressed or whatever's going on, like how do you want me to respond to that situation? Because every single time I offer a solution, like, and you get more upset about it, it's not gonna be good, So how do you want me to be in that time?
Yeah, and it's just a constant thing we have to work on, and it's a constant thing that we go through in our relationships. But I'm just grateful that I'm able to have those open conversations. You know what I mean? Because there are some couples that I know that struggle with that, and they hold on to things, and it leads to bigger things. You know what I mean? So I think having that constant communication, that trust to be able to do that consistently. I'm truly grateful, and that's why I say when I drove here, I was just really proud of where we're at, the people we've become, and where we're going to be obviously in the next few years or so.
Love that, man.
Yeah,
I want to ask a question that I ask every guest on the podcast, but is how do you define success?
It's a good one. Well, like I said before, I think success for me is the positive impact I had on the people that I love and care about, and also the legacy that I've had. When I'm older, 20, 30 years time, if I'm proud of all the achievements, that's my success. It doesn't have to be a number in terms of money or currency or anything like that. It's probably the impact I've had on the people I've loved and the people for myself.
Love that.
Yeah.
But with your runs that you're doing and raising money, like how can myself and the listeners, like how can we get on board? How can we support?
Yeah, it's a good question. So on my Instagram page at the moment, I do have links. So there's a link for grassroots for the Gold Coast Hospital Foundation. So if you click on that, it goes to my page and shares my story, but you can donate whatever you want, feel free. I'm just, grateful that people are supporting this great cause. And it will boost me when I do those 42 kilometers as well. But also the links on my page do share about my condition. So there's a foundation called Gutty Jackson Foundation, which is based in America. They do more research into NMO, neuromyelitis optica. So they're currently trying to find better ways to manage the disease, but also ultimately find a cure. So click on those links if you want to know more about the condition as well.
Perfect. I'll chuck in the bio of this episode as well, so people can just jump straight to it.
Awesome. Easy.
Well, thank you for coming on, man. It's been an
man.
absolute pleasure. Your story's inspiring to see, the man, not that you've become, but that you're still becoming, through, despite all the challenges you've been through, man, like it's really cool to see. And it's like, it's real inspiring for myself to see no matter what challenges you go through, you can still find a way, you can still live a good life, you can still, pursue things that you want to pursue, and you can still find ways to enjoy life every day. So
I think it's important. Like I said before, gratitude has probably saved my life, and being able to see the good and silver lining in everything has allowed me to be where I'm at the moment. But thank you, Ryan, for the opportunity. It's been an honor, and it's been obviously a great conversation as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing this episode and everyone else hearing it at the same time.
All right, cheers.
No worries.